go. All right. Oh, yeah, look at him. You got to fight him on the surface.
What I like to do is take an RC jig from Northland Fishing Tackle.
Get the shiner after the fish attacked it. Hook him weedless style.
This puppy wanted a jigging size sucker minnow. Yeah, sucker minnow.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Bro Road Show. I'm glad you're here tonight. How was your opener? I hope it was good. We had a great opener. Seemed like everybody had a great opener. This is an extended show, and this is part 2 of the opener show. And we're going to bring people who are more centric to this area, to Mille Lacs, that, you know, the whole upper part of the state would like to do the lower too, but can't get it all in there. And when we live up here, so but I want to thank Chesterburg Toyota. Without them, we wouldn't have this show. And Chesterburg Toyota is not just a cool dealership. They have the best customer service. And I've bought a lot of vehicles in my life. You walk in, they treat you like family. They have hot coffee. And I won't lie, sometimes I just don't have any change in my pocket, so I go get coffee. And but make sure to look at a car, too, and say hi to everybody. But state-of-the-art repair shop and body shop. So Chesterburg Toyota, and they have a kids giveaway. Check out their Facebook. Yeah, they have a great Facebook site, and it's about bringing people to their fan page, and it's about the kids. So Chesterburg. I also want to thank Bemidji Sports Center. They have all those killer machines to go play in the mud, side-by-sides, four-wheelers, all different brands. They got Sea-Doo. They can even get you a jet ski you can fish off of. They make those. They got everything there. You walk in there and bring your wife and buy what she wants. Let her pick the color, and that's a great way to do it. So stop in there and say hi to Brandon. And very important, visit Bemidji. If you want to visit Bemidji, go and press the buttons and go visit them, because if you look at their site, they're going to hook you up and send you in the right direction. Visit Bemidji. You're one spot to know what's going on in Bemidji, the resorts, the lakes, the fishing, and they will take care of you there. Brady's there. He'll make sure his staff is going to jump on your questions, and they're just super good. And definitely go check out their website. But without further ado, we got to bring on Sam Larsen, my co-host with the most IQ, I would want to say, of all my co-hosts I've ever had. And how's Sam doing tonight?
Hey, it's fishing opener, so I'm good.
Hey, Randy was here. Neil, good to see you. It's like it's a huge deal up here. I mean, it's nothing closes down. It just gets super busy, you know. And so
town was popping this weekend. Northland is actually gracious enough to give us the Friday before opener off, so we had time to run around,
awesome.
Get our bait, and get our boats all rigged. But yeah, I was going around town. I stopped in at the bait shop, and the bait shop seemed like a restaurant or bar. It was just buzzing with people, and everyone was talking, so it was a good time.
Yeah, you walk into these bait shops right now, and you don't realize the time you're there an hour, and you don't even know it. You just think you're like hanging somewhere cool, you know. Yep. And it's kind of neat because you never know who you're going to meet, right at the bait shops. And
exactly.
I got to tell people ahead of time here. We're about to bring on pretty soon. We got Josh Bullivant, and he's Leech Lake aficionado. He's a phenom down there. He's really good at fishing Leech Lake, and he actually runs a resort, and he helps out at Reed's. He does the whole thing. But Josh is a fishing guide, and he's got some great stuff to talk about. He's fishing live. You might catch a walleye live right on the show. But before that, I want to tell you about Nick Linder. Yeah, the media eye candy. The guy who's carrying the torch for everybody as we're getting feeble and old, and my orange is turning gray. Nick Linder is here, and he's going to talk fishing. Brad Hawthorne. Brad is a brother from another mother. Brad is there, and he is on Mille Lacs, so he's going to have a good lowdown on what's going on. So without further ado, let's bring Josh Bullivant on.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Josh, how are you doing? Oh, are you catching a walleye live?
I am catching a walleye live or a fish on right now.
That's really cool. What do you think it is?
It looks like a pike. I can see him out there. He just shook his head right now.
Still fun to catch. Oh, Razor's in the house, and Jared.
I think this is the first live catch on the Bro Road Show before.
Well,
I'm a little envious that I'm a little envious you beat us to it.
you know, the thing is, what I want to tell everybody what's going on here is where Josh is fishing. We've actually pulled some big fish in the Leech Lake Walleye Tournament right there. We're pitching towards the dock, and people are casting out. It's a natural point. Oh, look at that.
Little
Live
northern.
pike. That's what we call a pickler, right?
It is right off the dock right there.
That's Y-bone material, and that's live. It doesn't get any better than that. And he actually, didn't you see a walleye swim by here a few minutes ago?
Yeah, I just saw walleye a couple minutes ago. I've been watching the shiners from up here. We got this awesome fishing dock right here on Trappers. It sticks out almost right to the brake line. So
I've been noticing that dock. That's one of them super ultralight ones, and love it. That's so nice to put in. So tell us, hey, what went on in the opener? I mean, what was the deal?
So like always, it was a jig and minnow bite up here for everybody. And you can't, I mean, the weather that's happened, probably the best opener in 10 years weather-wise. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. Most of the guys were still finding the fish shallow, though, and they weren't always in their typical spots. They actually had to get it a little bit away from the boat. So you had to get your jig, fan cast, or use your side imaging and get it a little bit away. This water's crystal clear right now on Leech Lake.
And Sam, I forgot to ask him, my first thing that I've been dying to ask, what's the water temperature?
Water temperature is sitting anywhere between 55 to 62 degrees that we found across the lake.
Wow.
I had on the surface temp, I was just out a little bit before this too, just checking some stuff out, and we were at like 62 on this side. Of course, it was 80 degrees and flat calm out on the lake, but it's definitely warming up, and those fish are still on their spots, their early season spots. They haven't moved out of there right now.
That's pretty cool.
So Josh, I had some friends that fish down at Leech, and it seems like Leech is an awesome place to get a lot of good eater quality fish, but also you have a chance at a real trophy size fish. Are those fish kind of mixed in together, or is there things people can do to target the trophy fish?
Yeah, so once you find the keeper fish, they tend to roam as just keeper fish in those spots right now.
Yeah.
Every once in a while you get like that 24, 25 in there. But those bigger fish, the guys that, for instance, over on our end of the lake, they slid out a little bit deeper. So instead of fishing that 6 to 10 where a lot of those smaller keepers were, they were out more in that 12 to 15 foot range right now.
Oh, a lot deeper than normal.
And that probably had to do a little bit, especially Sunday was super calm, kind of like tonight is behind me. You can see it's just glass. And that probably had a little bit to do with that. But those bigger fish seem to be a little bit further out. And you go around and you can actually see those ones on your graph compared to the smaller fish. So it's just looking for the size comparisons and then fishing those fish. And of course, jigging a minnow works just as well up for those small fish. And then your bigger shiner or a big rainbow on there for those big fish out here. Even upscaling your jig a little bit. They like that faster rate of fall.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, man. And you said you like rainbows on Leech. If you can't get shiners, you'd go with a rainbow any day.
Yeah, they work just as well as your shiners do. So I know everybody wants the spot tails on Leech, but you know what? I found more fish this past weekend. I heard more fish getting caught on rainbows than the shiners.
That's very interesting, and maybe a smaller minnow. But I know one thing from being right where you're at, because I've been there, that the shiners spawn on your shoreline, and you got a creek coming in. So the walleyes, they know. They follow them in, and they wait for them on the edge, don't they?
They do. They follow right on the edge here. They even go inside our marina. We got a nice channel built into the marina, plenty of docks and covers, so they follow those shiners. I'm watching them all surface in the mouth here, so something must be chasing them around. The shiners, just big schools of them come through right now. So they're definitely, all those shiners are up spawning. So look for the sand areas or some of these harbor mouths where those shiners are spawning, and you'll find your walleyes up here.
How about
we had
the
a question, Sam. You want to tell them?
What was that?
There's a question here already rolling in for Josh.
Oh, I must have missed that one.
Okay, what was the biggest catch this weekend, Josh?
Biggest catch we saw come in or saw pictures of was 28.5 inches for a walleye. And we did.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful looking fish. We saw a lot of 26s, 27s from people that with pictures that were coming in. So some very, very, very healthy looking fish too. They have plenty of food out there.
Well, we did have someone ask. That's pretty high temp for this year, isn't it? For this time of year, normally it's lower, the 50s or 40s.
Yeah, usually it's in the either upper 40s. Last year at this time frame, we were in the upper 40s, and there were no buds on the trees. So we actually started off March, April well behind last year. Ended up catching up. The ice was out for a week before opener, but we had some record highs, as we all know. So we've had a little bit of that record low cold, and then followed by record highs all week. So it warmed up that water, and not a lot of wind. It's been a very gorgeous start to the walleye fishing season, especially if you're sitting out there looking for the suntan while you're out in the boat.
Well, hey Sam, that's where they get those a lot of smallmouth bass. Josh's area over there.
I know. I heard some guys did really, really well on the smallmouth down there at Leech too. Did you hear the same?
I heard the same. We had one of the locals that live right down the road was showing me pictures. He caught 2 over 5.5 pounds.
That's
Wow.
Right out,
insane.
yeah, right out, basically out in front of the resort. So we got some nice rock piles and stuff right outside, and they were, I guess that's all they were getting, and 2 of them were over 5.5 pounds. So you're talking a fish that's over probably 22, 23, pushing 20, maybe 23 inches for a smallmouth bass. They were very nice looking smallies that are out there.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
true for sure. Hey, Josh, where are the walleyes at in their spawn stage? Are they still pre-spawn? Is some fish spawning? Are we mixed all between? What would you say?
I would say we're pretty much towards the end. I don't think the mid-lake spawners have quite gone yet. So some of those fish that go out on like Annex, Pelican Island, I haven't quite seen them yet. But I think most of these fish that are using the shorelines, they either did it probably already at their end, and they're starting to now put on the feed bags right in that perfect timing now where they're chasing up these shiners and perch that are starting to come up and spawn. I think that's where they're at, especially on these shorelines. Out on Pelican and those mid-lake spawning fish, I'd probably say another week and a half, and I bet you they'll be ready and primed to go. You'll be looking at the bite transition out there, and those fish chasing those.
Well, I know the shiners do go up on Pelican in those shallow flats on the rocks where there's sand, and they spawn up there too. 65-degree water is when the shiners spawn. So I'm wondering if by the time the walleyes move in, if it's going to be a different bait source.
Yeah, I'd guess that same thing out here. I mean, they're going to be in and out, especially with the temperatures this next week. We're looking at highs in the upper 70s. It'll definitely warm up those areas, and probably they'll be in and out as within a couple days instead of kind of that extended period. So,
wow.
Josh, I think you kind of briefed on this a little bit earlier, but we had another question come in about what water depths are you looking for this time of year?
So this time of year, I like to, just like a lot of the other guides, I love pitching jigs and minnows. I am looking, like if I'm starting early in that, I'm looking for anything less than 10 feet of water. I prefer that temperature. I mean, it's so much fun to go up there. You can even sight fish, get a good pair of polarized glasses or whatever, good pair of Costas and stuff that you're using up in there. You can see those fish out there, and you can cast right to them. So you can sight fish up shallow, get that jig away. But yeah, mainly you're looking on these sand flats, sand gravel transitions that are in that, I'd say anywhere less than 10 feet is what you're looking for.
Wow. So Leech Lake has kind of turned into a giant cast lake now where it's so clear you could see the fish swimming around.
Yeah, you can see them swimming around. We were out setting out the dock the other day, and you could see down 20 feet. You could see the rocks and stuff down there. I mean, it is clear water. Those zebra mussels definitely are causing a little bit of a different effect on the lake than maybe what we're used to.
Last year I did the Leech Lake tournament out there, and you'd pull up on a reef and you could see it from the distance. You don't even need a graph anymore. Yeah, I still have my Lake Master so I can find little subtle places, but you could see them glowing, the rocks below. And so I can't imagine this year. It's really changed in the last 2 years.
It has. It's definitely, you definitely see a different color pattern in that water. It's got that light crystal blue to it instead of maybe that green that we're all used to seeing usually this time of year. It's definitely a bluish color instead of that green.
Well,
Josh,
Sam,
wind has always been a Leech Lake thing. They always say fish the wind, But with the clear water, is that becoming more and more important or helpful to getting more bites as fishing the windy shorelines?
It definitely does, for sure. I've noticed that this weekend on opener, the guys that kind of stayed down here or didn't follow the wind or stayed out of those windy areas, they didn't do as good as the guys that kind of followed the wind or fished where we had a southeast wind, east wind all week. So fishing that west side of the lake was where you wanted to be this weekend. And guys that definitely didn't follow the wind did not do as well as the guys that kind of followed it and fished in that wind.
Interesting.
And we had a viewer question. I'll lead into this, but wind also pushes the warm water. And we just had someone ask, do walleyes like warmer or colder water? And I think we'll all agree that warmer water generally leads to more bites, and that windy side of the lake will push that warm water over there.
Yep, and that's definitely, and that was this was a classic weekend to see that up here. It was 3 or 4 degrees warmer where that warmer water was getting pushed to, and those guys definitely did a lot better. I know we look forward to the warmer water this time of year because that metabolism speeds up on those fish, and they need to eat more when it starts to get like that.
That's
on the lake I was fishing on Saturday morning, I actually saw almost a 10-degree shift from the calm side to the wind-blown side.
What a difference.
I know. So wind is super, super important come this time of year, and always chase the wind if you can.
Oh, Sam, we got a giveaway tonight, and it's a
we
really good one.
Yep. So, again, we're doing another Bro Road Show giveaway. This week, we're going to give away one of our new cabin kits. We talked a little bit about them last week. We have a walleye, a bass, and a panfish version. They have everything you need to catch those species. One-click shopping. You can find them on our website. This week, we're going to give away the walleye version. We also have the Bro Road Show mug, the Bro Road Show hat, and the hoodie from Visit Bemidji, as well as a little stuffed animal, Pollen Babe. So to get entered into win the giveaway, make sure to like, comment your question, and share the show. And Brooke will be picking out a winner at the end of the show. And depending on how the show goes tonight, we might extend it out a little bit too. So
that's a pile of stuff. Wow, that's fantastic. So, Josh, I was going to ask you, as far as jigging, got any tips for people on colors and different? I know you covered weight. You like a heavier weight, but kind of go through the spectrum of colors and weight.
So it depends kind of on the wind. If I got a little bit heavier wind, like I said, I'll upgrade my jigs just so I can get that feel. Tungsten jig right now, one of my favorite things to use when it's up shallow. The new tungstens that are out there by Northland. My favorite color out here, and that was introduced from you, bro, is glow watermelon out on the lake. You can't beat that no matter what time of year. Out here, that's one of my favorite ones, especially up shallow. If I get a really sunny day, I've started to switch more over to like a gold or even a black jig. So I don't know what it is with the black on a nice bright sunny, but that gold works really well, or a black. I know they're two contrasting colors, but I started to use a lot more of those colors when I've been up on those sunny, windy shorelines for it. And then these low light conditions, definitely glow watermelon. Moonlight, that blue and white, is another of my favorites. So I think it more or less, those are looking a lot like the blue and white. Glow watermelon tend to look like our crayfish that are out on the lake.
And do you got a swivel on your line right now? Do you use a swivel?
I have it tied back-to-back uni knots to my mono. So with it, swivel does help with the line twist, but a lot. But I guess when I got some ceramic guides on this rod, so I just do the back-to-back uni knots when I'm connecting my leader. And that's becoming a lot more important too, is putting on that, if you're using your braid or any of that, putting on a fluorocarbon leader. And what I do is I try and use about a 10-pound test braid, and then I use a fluorocarbon all the way down, depends how shallow or the size of the jig, 4 to 6 pound test on that one. And you can always adjust your drag, and I've caught plenty of big fish on 4 to 6 pound test fluorocarbon in a jig. And that that light line gives you a little bit more action up shallow.
With that clear water, Josh, how long of a leader are you using?
About 6 feet off of my off of it. So I put 6 foot leader. And that even goes when I'm rigging anything else, I might even go 8 feet, but usually about a 6 foot leader. And try and use like a white or a black or a green colored braid when I'm doing that too. So, but I mean, you're talking a 10-pound test. Fire line's about 2-pound test diameter, so it blends in pretty well as out on the lake as well. So,
Oh yeah. You see, I sometimes I'll use color. So these are some sunline colors here. I really love that glow green and that bright yellows, high vis yellow is pretty nice. But sometimes if it's really, really clear, I don't want it bright. I like green, like you say.
yeah, it works. You can see it a lot better. It all depends on kind of what your eye likes too with it. I have a lot of rods with yellow. I take a lot of clients out that have a hard time seeing that bite or watching their line, and that yellow is the way to go with all of those type of guests out there that we have, and they can see it, they can learn and watch their rod tip a little bit more, which is important when you're up jigging or getting that jig a long ways, is watching where that line and watching kind of how that goes, because every once in a while those big walleyes just pick it up, and it's just that little sensitivity on your rod tip that you'll see a difference of with it.
I've become a really big fan of line watching, and I'm almost always using high vis line. But very true that in these clear waters, the fish can get spooky, so you need to make sure you have the long enough leader. So,
well, you want to make sure that Joey can see your line when you're in the bass tournament.
Exactly, so he doesn't cast over me. But no, actually today we were fishing out on Mille Lacs, and we'll talk a little bit more when Brad and Nick come in. But we marked one right underneath the boat with Mega Live, and I casted, basically dropped underneath it, and Brad's like, I don't know if it's going to bite with your high vis line, but I had the long enough leader where it went right underneath the boat, so it was a good deal. So
did you get it?
We got it, and it was the biggest fish of the day. So
that's fantastic. See, Sam comes through in a crunch.
Big
Josh,
fish.
We talked a little bit about the walleyes and the smallmouth, but what other multi-species opportunities does Leech provide?
So perch. So this weekend was probably the best opener I've seen for perch. Guys bringing in big perch out on the lake. So I saw a lot of live wells full of perch while those guys are up fishing up shallow for the walleyes right now. So that's always fun to catch and have a different one. Oh, I just missed one. Oops, I wasn't paying attention.
We're keeping you too busy.
So perch are a great one right now also on the lake. One of the fun things to go do. And again, it's practice catch and release with these fish, or the crappies that are moving into all the harbors across the lake. So I heard a lot of good bites. They're actually starting to move into their beds, move into those harbors right now across the lake. And that's kind of another little kind of secret of the lake. They do bite at certain windows, and this is the time of year to start coming up for those big crappies. Again, try and let those big ones go, because they do take a while to grow on Leech Lake. So good crappies. And of course, we're a musky lake too, but that'll be in a couple weeks here when that opens back up.
So, Josh, before we have to let you go coming up here, could you tell us about this fundraiser coming up this weekend and what it's about and what time people should be there? Because I'm going to be there.
Yeah, so the Arnold family, Heather Hauser, and Heather Armstrong from Reed's. Arnold family owns Reed's Trappers Landing Lodge, where I work, are holding a fundraiser for my daughter, Selah Boulevant. A few years ago, we came up with something that's called VUR that she has. This is to kind of help us with some of the medical expenses that are associated with this as we battle through and figure out, hopefully, a cure for Selah. So it's celebrating. Sorry, I'm going to get. Whew.
It's a really good cause, and I'm going to be there too to eat some of that food.
Yeah, we got some good food going on. I appreciate I heard donations are coming in for this. It's going to be a fun event. It starts at 4 p.m. at Trappers Landing Lodge. We've got some great giveaways I heard going on. There's probably some trip giveaways, there'll be some stays at some other places. There'll be fishing gear all the way down to great baked goods as donations, live auctions, raffles going on. So think of it as a big giant banquet that you'd go to, like Ducks Unlimited or that. Reed's always puts on a special twist when they have these things. So you're always going to have that sportsman's gear, the fun games, the fun family atmosphere. It is open to all families, kids. It's open. It's not open to just people in the Walker area and that. So we do have free will donation. It's going to be a pasta bar. So
this is Friday or Saturday at the Merit. They're right at Trappers Landing at 4 o'clock. and this is a fundraiser, and so we can help defray some costs of medical. So everybody out there, I'm going to be there. Let's stop in, and let's bring some dough and let's help out. How's that sound, Sam?
That sounds awesome.
So we appreciate you coming on, Josh. So again, if they're going to do a donation but they can't make it, where would they do this?
So they can either do it, get a hold of Heather Hauser at Bill Hansen Realty. Jen Arnold is here at Trappers Landing Lodge, and then also Heather Armstrong at Reed Sporting Goods. So they can either go into there or they can go into the Sailor Strong fundraiser page and donate through that way through our Caring Bridge. So we do also have a Caring Bridge out there that kind of follows our story or Sayla's story as she goes through everything.
And this is all on your live feed. So Josh Bullivant, look for it. And what a great thing. So I appreciate you coming on, and we will see you there. Heather's coming too.
Yes, I look forward to seeing you guys. Thank you for helping promote this and everything else. So
yeah, say hi to the Arnold clan. All right. Great having you.
I see some people moving in on your spot back there.
They're moving in on his dock.
They've got the Mega 360 out right now, and they're looking for fish. So I think they're stopped. They definitely spot lock. So I think they see a few out there. I see them.
Well, Mega 360 is amazing. You can see everything around you right now, and that's why I run it on my boat with Mega Live. It's a useful tool. But right now, I want to tell everybody, and we appreciate Josh coming out. Coming up next, we have probably no need to let anybody know who these people are because they're famous already. We have Nick Linder, he is a guy that's got all the great angles and photos, and he catches lots of fish, but he goes everywhere. He travels, he films to bring you what's going on in fishing. And Brad Hawthorne, he is a sage with a rod and fishes on Mille Lacs, guides on Mille Lacs, has houses, has all kinds of stuff. These two got a lot of stuff going, and you see them everywhere. These are poster people for fishing, and they're Northland pros and a lot of other pros, but they're also Lund, which is super awesome. Brooke, let's hope that these guys come on.
Yeah, I was saying,
and they're right there.
We're in Mille Lacs studio this week, so the guys are with. Hey, before we get into too much though, let's do a little reminder about the prize pack giveaway.
Prize pack.
We got a huge prize pack going on tonight. So it's going to feature the new Northland Walleye Cabin Kit. We also have those available at our website. The Bro Roadshow mug and hat. Visit Bemidji hoodie along with stuffed animal pollen babe. So
nice.
Sure like, comment, and share the show. That'll get you entered in to win that. And we'll be picking a winner towards the end of the show here. So,
wow, I love it. That's a pile of loot. What do you think, guys? Pretty good stuff, huh?
Absolutely. I really want one of those babe stuffings.
Everyone wants the pollen babe stuffed animals, which we had Brady on a few weeks ago. They are available for sale at, I believe he said the Chamber of Commerce down there. So if you're ever in Bemidji, you got to stop in and pick yourself up a
Sam, they want to know, when did you redecorate?
Yeah, well, I say we're in the Mille Lacs office today, aka the hotel room down here. But I got to come down and fish with Brad and Nick all day today on Mille Lacs. And it was a really good bite. So
that's awesome. So, okay, I'm going to throw it out there, and you just take turns. Don't fight. But so, starting with Nick, how was your opener?
My opener was okay. I like to take it easy on opener generally. So me and my wife went out and we fished for a handful of hours. And then after that, we took off and had dinner and then watched a movie. And it's never too hardcore because I know like the week after, I'm just going to be out in the water every day. And I know Saturday, Sunday, like there's going to be thousands of people on any lake I want to fish. So we took it easy. But yeah, that's what we kind of always do every year.
That sounds like a relaxing opener. How about you, Brad? Come on, let's hear it.
I went out on Mille Lacs with a buddy of mine, Matt, and basically he wanted to learn how to throw some jigs around, some forward-facing sonar, and we piled up a mess of fish on Saturday. I mean, it wasn't like we were doing anything special. People were just catching fish is what the deal was. But it was a super fun opener. Top 10 openers for me, for sure. Yeah.
That's good to hear. It sounds like it just seems like this warm weather really fast. And then, of course, stable weather and barometric pressure, the whole 9 yards. That's all part of it. But that's what I heard. It was really good. And any notable big ones on opener day?
No, I mean, big isn't like we did like 26 and a half was our biggest. We didn't crush any really big hogs, but that's to be expected. I mean, those big girls just got done doing their deal. And I kind of found like maybe 2 weeks from now is when you start to see those kind of skinnier females start to rear their heads back.
But those are still really nice. I think Mille Lacs has some really, really quality fish on it. Like I said, we were out there all day today, and we didn't catch any we didn't catch any small ones. They were all kind of around that 20-inch range and up from there. So it was a good day of fishing. So you guys, not out of the kind of stuff we were playing with today, but some of maybe our new jig releases last year. What's been your favorite new lure? So tungsten jigs, MVPs. What's been the favorite launch that we're available to the public this year?
Okay, I'm jumping in, and I'm just you're probably gonna, I don't know. It's gonna be tungsten, short and standard shank jigs are above all. They're starting to replace more things in my box, which I didn't think they would. And now I'm going, okay, order more. And we're filling in those colors and we're filling in those sizes. And it's like given the choice between using a jig that's less sensitive, that sinks slower on clear bodies of water, especially, I don't see the reason. And it just speaking on Mille Lacs, I don't see the reason why you would use a lead jig anywhere out here. I really don't.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, for me, yeah, there you go. That's the one.
It's got an evil eye to it.
It's got the tungsten T eyes.
It does. Yeah. I mean, so tungsten is great. So for me, just the quality, like the characteristics of tungsten and like the metal itself and, the density and how you can feel things and how it's a smaller profile. And like for me, those tungsten jigs like have basically the ideal hook, whether you want to do plastics or minnows. But I would also throw a little bit of a curveball and say the Nedster jig has been another one.
Yeah.
And then also another one too that I've been using a lot in spring. For me has actually been the Mimic Swim. And for me with like a big paddle tail, that is like a super ideal bait. Some walleye guys might be a little bit afraid just based on the hook. They might be, they might think it's a little beefy. But if you're using a paddle tail, those fish crack it. And when they crack it, you want to drill them. So for me, like I really like that jig as well.
I don't have one here to show. I do use those, especially in my tournaments. This is kind of, the Mimic one is more of a minnow shaped one. You got one there, Sam?
I don't. I left all my tackle down in the vehicle, but it's based off our Mimic minnow head. So it's a very fish shaped design. It's got a 90-degree hook on it. Really excels with plastics. So that one's been good. And then another interesting one, the Nedster. I think the Nedster is a great multi-species bait. And I think
all around, yeah.
Brad,
that's a mushroom head.
When he's guiding for bass using a Ned rig, he's catching a lot of walleyes. And
well, we are. And a little secret that we used to use on when we would, because we've been Ned rigging walleyes on Mille Lacs for years. We don't really want to talk about it a lot, right? It's like one of those things, But what really set that apart was the ability to choose the color head, like that the chartreuse head for walleyes in
very
particular.
Yep.
It's it puts fish in the boat,
and it stands up.
What's that?
It stands up.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
But just that color flash really seems to do the deal sometimes. It really does.
I was using that chartreuse Nedster in our bass league last year, probably like first week of June, and I caught largemouth on it. I caught crappies on it. I caught walleyes on it.
Yep.
I caught bluegills on it, and then of course you catch pike on it too. So it's a super versatile rig, and I kind of stayed the more traditional jigs at the start of the season, but after that, I almost always have a Ned rig tied up because it works for plastics for walleyes. It works for plastics.
And they got that little barb on there on the Nedsters.
Yep. Yeah. So it hooks that the the plastic on there tight, it's a good deal. So
Yeah, and you can cast in a mile. You can have it laying on the deck. You don't have to, pull it out of the minnow bucket and cast it up every time you want to toss a jig into a pot of fish. So
That's
my
awesome.
process with it, anyhow.
So another quick question on the new stuff before we get moving forward. You said tungsten, short shank, and long shank. When do you guys decide when you're throwing short shank versus long shank? I always like asking people that question.
So for me, it's when you're getting short bit. If I'm getting completely short bit all the time, I'm going to that standard shank. Because even though they say that is a standard shank, and it is a standard shank, it's just that little bit. I just say a little bit. It's about a half inch, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a standard jig hook shank.
Yeah, but getting that hook point further back on the minnow when they're short biting, or it depends. Like sometimes you're fishing and the fish are faced a different way or whatever. But if you're getting short bit, if you're not hooking up all the time, that's when I'll go to that standard hook shank. And every time I do that, I see my hooking percentages improve.
Mm-hmm.
Now, short shank, if you're just skull hooking minnows or going in the mouth, out the top of the head, you had a great video on that, by the way.
Yeah.
Sam. If you're just doing that and you're processing fish, that's short shank all the way.
So we talked about that in that video, and if you haven't checked it out, it's on our YouTube page. But I like the short shank because it works perfect with any minnow in the tank. Sucker minnow, a fat head, any minnow that's hook on, you're ready to go. There's no fiddling around. It's a pretty secure way to hold them. It's versatile. So
I would agree with everything they just said on the minnow side. And then I would add that for crawlers, I always like to use the long shank. To me, like the tungsten is an amazing crawler jig because it's got the small little profile and nice, good long shank or regular shank jig.
Dual hook keeper.
Yeah, and then when I'm using leeches, it's always the short shank. So that's kind of that's the only thing I would add. But otherwise, like with minnows, you got to play with it, feel how they're biting it. Take some data and make some decisions based on what you're seeing.
That's fantastic. I hope everybody's taking notes because these things really work well. And when it comes to plastics, it's pretty hard to beat the MVP in a tournament. Now, I know that barb's curved in. It's a river hook, and it's really a sharp hook. You'll find out when you use them if you're not careful around them. But when it gets into a bigger walleye's mouth, you're not going to lose them. You can almost swing them in the boat if your line's heavy enough because that thing really stabs them, and it's a premium hook.
Let's talk about that hook a little bit. Hold that up again. I think that kind of pointed downward point on that scares some people away. But the engineering behind that is the point goes directly towards the eye of the jig. So when you're pulling towards the eye. So that's going to pull that point, and you're going to get the most mechanical advantage on those fish. And I very rarely dump a fish using that MVP jig.
I can say when you hook a fish with that jig, with the MVP jig, you're more than likely, you always have, you don't realize this, but you have your pliers handy because you're wrenching that jig out of fish's mouth.
Well, and I don't set the hook basically with the rod tip. I set it with the reel. I reel it till it's tight. It's kind of like the saltwater kind of techniques where they use circle hooks. You reel it till it's tight. It rolls up into their mouth, and you got them.
Exactly.
But I got a quick question here, and a viewer just had. I'm going to say, what's your favorite way to cook perch or walleyes? And I'll say mine is coconut. I like having coconut walleyes and perch, and you just got to cook it carefully so you don't burn the coconut. But you do everything. You do the shore lunch or whatever frying magic you use, or your own batter, and you roll the coconut in there, and you just got to not burn it. It doesn't taste as good that way, but it's good with everything, even cereal.
Know what I've been liking to do, bro? And I'm curious what your guys' favorite recipe is too. But everyone loves anyone who's been on a Canadian trip loves a good Canadian shore lunch, right? Open fire, cast iron pan, grease in the pan. So even at my house, if I'm just cooking up a few fish and don't want to make a giant mess in the kitchen, I'll take the cast iron pan and go over the open flame and have a little shore lunch. Yeah. Get the grease thermometer next. It's easy to get the grease too hot, but it's simple. It's quick. It's an easy cleanup. So that's how I cook my.
Too bad I don't live closer to you.
No,
I like fish fries that I don't have to cook. Okay.
I think everyone does.
I want to hear what Nick and Brad's way to cook them.
I love eating fish however the cook in the house makes it. No, I like I love fish in tacos especially. And like one thing I love is when you get the batter on there and then you go back for round 2 with the batter and you jam it in there and get it extra crispy and then throw it inside a soft shell.
The double coat, yeah.
The double coat of the crisp. So that's, that would be my only 2 cents on it. I like them extra crispy.
Oh, that's good.
You guys, I don't have a favorite way. Like, honestly, like, if I'm frying fish, you could have the grodiest gas station batter that you just picked up. And as long as you have fresh walleye and like that, like bro says, as long as you're not using coconut, I get that oil about 400 degrees. And the cast iron, because, well, here's a good point. When you're frying fish and you're doing it in cast iron, when that fillet hits the cast iron, you get a deeper cook on it. You get maybe it turns a little brown and the rest of the fish. So you get a little bit of two-toneness to the fish, which adds a little bit more texture, which is super good. But honestly, like, I have not had bad fried fish at my house. So I love eating fish, man. I don't care how it's done.
Any good walleye is a dead walleye.
Yeah.
Wow. We're hungry around here.
The eater-sized ones, right?
Lemon pepper, always good. Always good. That viewer had a great idea. Onions go with everything that was alive once that we're eating. Yeah. And lemon pepper, always good with fish. Great, great, great. And so just want to move into more Northland stuff. Do you guys ever use plastics? I was using plastics, and when I was in an area that had current, and I also fished an area where the water was a little bit warmer, getting in the 60s, believe it or not. I was in middle of Winnie, it was in the 50s, but in the shallow parts where there was mud, I found 63 degrees. And do you ever use plastics? Because I had some success on them as I used up my shiners.
Yeah, no, plastics are big. I do feel like once you start sneaking up into that higher water temperature, I think you can really catch a lot of fish being way more aggressive than you think you should be.
That's my number one impulse bait right there, bro.
Yeah,
what you're holding up,
paddle tail is
that
awesome.
paddle tail is my Mille Lacs number one go to. That one and the fork tail. If you're ripping a jig with that plastic on there on Mille Lacs, you're gonna get bit.
Yeah,
you're going to get bit. There's exactly. Have them rigged up. It's like
line it up first, so you're not,
Yep.
And I'll contrast to say that my favorite is the smelt minnow, which is just a straight tail minnow profile.
Yep.
And like back up, it is good. It is, yeah. And so like ripping it, that one, yes. Yep. Ripping it through on a lot of like the clear water stocked walleye lakes that we fish in central Minnesota. It's casting it up into the weeds and it's ripping it, especially once we start getting up into those 60-degree water range. That reaction by ripping plastics is just super deadly, especially if you want to catch big fish.
And you hit it at the right time. And there's definitely times where you can catch far more walleyes on plastics
for sure
than you can for a number of reasons.
For sure.
Sure.
You're never fishing on credit. You always know you got bait down there. You're getting more casts in, and I think most importantly, you're triggering more of those fish to bite.
That's a good looking.
I love that jig.
That's
the Mimic swim jig, similar to the Mimic jig we were talking about, just a little different hook in it. That one's got a 60-degree eye, a little heavier wire in there.
To me, that is the ultimate paddle tail swim bait jig. It's perfect for me. And I used it a lot this spring in rivers and stuff. So
we'll line that up there, but you can see it's pretty proportionate to the side, but this is a little heavier one. So would there be a time on Mille Lacs or the lakes that you fish that you would use something in that 3/8 ounce?
Absolutely. Once we start knocking on the door of you're consistently fishing that 10, 12 feet and over, that it's so super funny. He's 2 for 2 on rigging those up. That what you have rigged up, bro, on right there is in my rod locker right now.
That's awesome.
That right there is a deadly combination when the fish are running 10, 12 feet to 18 feet and you need a swim bait and you're like, that is money.
And talking about weights a little bit, I know I personally, I like to go up a size when I'm using plastics because you're trying to trigger that reactionary bite. It's, you know, I think a shiner minnow is a lot of a visual bite. It's what they're eating. They see that and they eat it. When you're using plastics, it doesn't look exactly like a shiner. So you have to keep that bait moving a little faster and kind of trick them into it and play the cat and mouse. Oh crap, he's getting away game. So I definitely like to upsize my jig a size when using plastics.
It does. It gets a reaction out of them. And, just catching up a little bit on the questions here. What kind of weight are you using in river current? Obviously, you got to go heavier. You got to be in the contact zone. But typically, what would you guys use in current? And your favorite fish to catch? We'll do a 2-prong.
I mean, I would say it's highly variable. Like there's times when I've gone out and I'm like, oh, we're heading up to the Rainy River. You know, I got to make sure I have my 3/8, my halves. And you get there and, you know, you're at 11 feet of water and there's not as much current as you think there would be. And you'll use like an 1/8, you know? Right. So it's more just like you need to go, if you're fishing in a current, you need to kind of play with it and see like, okay, can I feel the bottom? You know, are you maintaining like somewhat reasonable proximity to the bottom? And you just got to play with it. It's hard to just pick. It's hard to just say, and it can be different from day to day.
Yeah, it's jig size always has to be, especially in rivers, your jig size has to match your current conditions, not like your actual current of the water conditions, not like what's going on. So you take that, and if you've got a 3-4 mile an hour current, you're obviously going to need to upsize that weight a little bit. Or what you'll see on a river too is this angle here. Look at this. A lot of times that angle becomes too extreme to catch fish. And a lot of times it's too vertical. And a lot of times like people throw around that 45-degree mark that's actually somewhere in that is where you want, is usually ideal for river fishing, I find anyways. But like you can get too far out there and you get problems. You set the hook, you're instantly on the bottom, and now you're losing jigs.
Yeah.
Well, this is 3/8. That's what I used up at Rainy right there. And it was good for the most part. The river current there was 2.3 to 2.8. And it's faster in some of the neck down areas, like when you go by Clemenson, or up by Birchdale. But that's one. But at Detroit River, this would be on the surface.
Yeah, right.
If anybody's been there, sometimes I've seen it 3.5 to 4.5 miles an hour, and you're chasing your jig and trying to keep your line vertical. But great questions, and we appreciate everybody out there asking. And that's Sam. Tell them how they can win, and this is one of the ways.
Before we get into too much more, let's do a little reminder about the prize pack. So we are giving away another Bro Road Show prize pack. This week we got the Northland Tackle, the new walleye cabin kit. So it's got everything you need in it to catch walleyes. We got the Bro Road Show mug, the hat, the Visit Bemidji hoodie, and of course the mini Paul and Babe stuffed animals. So make sure to comment your questions, and share the show. And we'll be picking out a winner towards the end here. So,
of course, they all want to know where you're going to fish tomorrow so they can follow you. But so as far as the up and coming, is there any place that you really want to fish this summer? Either of you, any destination? Is there any place you're going to be heading to that you're just looking forward to?
That's a good one. I'm looking forward to wherever we're going on Wednesday.
Yeah.
We're gonna go over by Leech, I think.
Lake you never go.
I would say honestly, like it's Mille Lacs. I know, I'm out there every day, but I think about fishing it, and I love fishing it. The only other caveat to that would be I love Erie too. Every time I think about Erie, I'm like, I should go. It's just such a wonderful fishery.
I'm kind of, it's for me. I just got right now, I don't have anything planned, but right now I have a fascination with heading out west. So like I've never fished Sakakawea, and that just sounds like such an awesome place. Devils is another place. Like I fished it through the ice, but haven't been there in open water yet. But then like Fort Peck, like we went lake trout fishing on Fort Peck, and it is a haul to get out there, man. But I've heard like the walleye and pike can be really fun out there. So I would say that's kind of on my list as far as like where I'd love to go this summer. I'm not sure if I'm going to get there for sure or not.
And Sam?
Me, I have a hit list of lakes this summer.
He's got an actual list, probably.
So
Sam's ready. Yeah.
I'm going to be adventuring locally. I think I have 9 lakes to check off in Beltrami County. And then once I fish those 9, I'll have fished every publicly accessible lake in Beltrami County. So I want to get that knocked off, and then a few more honey holes here and there. So that's going to be my summer, is adventuring locally. How about you? Do you got anything planned or got any wish list lakes?
Oh, I don't know. It's probably, I'm glad to be on all of them right now, but I'm already looking forward to Rainy. I do a bass tournament up there, and you do a bass tournament up there because you catch more walleyes trying to catch a bass. You hook muskies, you catch 40-inch class pike.
Big pike.
It's just crazy kind of fishing, and you're after bass, right? Wink, wink. You just catch everything when you're up there. But if you're going to go to Devil's Lake, you definitely want that weed guard on that fireball. That's a stand-up fireball, and you can just see it's got the little weed guard
For tossing around in the cover.
I wish that existed when I was there. You could probably go and still have the same jig. Well, no, you bring a box of jigs when you go there.
So we talked about this a little bit, but what is your guys' favorite species of fish to chase?
I like smallmouth. I do. I like smallmouth. I've been on a smallmouth kick for about 10 years now. I still like that. Being said, don't worry, I didn't throw walleye away. I'm still infatuated with walleye, but smallmouth, I've always been a bass fisherman my entire life, and just living here and being able to target like 4 to 6 pound smallmouth is, I don't care. Hate on me. I love it. I'm never going to stop doing it either.
And people drive from all over the southern U.S. to fish Mille Lacs because they had a Bassmaster Elite there, and they had some of the biggest bags they've ever had.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've been like spoiled growing up catching those fish. It's like you catch a 5-pounder and it's just like
they're built differently down here.
It's not the first time I've seen one. You know what I mean? So I love those too. I feel like there's nothing more satisfying than catching a really big walleye. Like there's just something about that. So like to one degree, like that would be part of my answer. If I could pick like to go catch a giant trophy fish, I'd be really excited about a walleye. But on the other side of it would be lake trout are just so awesome. I love lake trout, and we don't have like a ton of them where I live, and maybe it's because of that I can't just go and do it like whenever I want. Yeah. But if I can drive up north or head out to like the Rockies or any of it, like lake trout would be my favorite fish to catch. I would say like open water or ice fishing.
Wow. How about you, Sam?
I would say I probably target largemouth bass the most, but I think my favorite species of fish to catch is whatever one I'm after that day.
Safety there. That was a safety answer.
Well, but it all depends on what the bite is. I like catching them all, like and I like catching certain ones. Like if a jig bite, like we had on Mille Lacs today, lasted all year long, I might sell all my bass tackle and just fish
and okay, my turn. Big bluegills, and I'm not going after them to kill them, to harvest them. I just want to catch a great big one. I want to hold them, throw them up in the air like a baby, maybe hug it a little bit. I might bite them. I got one sharp tooth right there, and I'll just bite them a little bit, but I won't hurt them, and then I'll let them go. And just go, as they swim away. I like big bluegills. I cannot lie. Just love them. Everything about them, the color, just how they smell, how they fight, how they turn in circles. And then you catch umpteen other ones when you're on them, but you get that big bluegill and you just stare at it and it looks at you in fear and then you let it go.
Well, there's something seasonable about it too. Like I love going out on ice out with you, Brian, and we catch perch. Like to me, that is such a cool bite. And then when we get to fall, like I love catching muskies, So there's a time of the year aspect to it as well.
That's true. Great questions. And people are going to have more stuff coming in, but to me too, walleyes. Let's say you're on Winnie or you're a red, you're in Lake of the Woods, and you start hammering a bunch of walleyes, they become bluegills in my eyes because if you throw it out there and you get a bite right away, it's a bluegill. If I go sturgeon fishing and we catch 35 sturgeon where you can't even set the rod down, that's like bluegill fishing. I like fast action, but bluegills are still the top of the pyramid. They're the top of the diamond, upside down diamond, I'd say. So, if you have any recommendations or say, what is something that people do when they're fishing where you're at, Brad, or where you're at, Nick, is what mistake, what could they do to not make the same mistake over and over? What do you see people doing wrong that you could help them out now?
So as it pertains to Mille Lacs, I would say your line choice. Let's start with your line choice. Your line choice is going to be probably your number one mistake guys make. You don't want to be tying braid direct to your jigs out here. You really need, and when we're talking your fluorocarbon tip line, that's the point I'm getting to. When you're talking your fluorocarbon tip line, I'm not talking about a 3 or a 4 foot carb. I'm not talking about that for tip line. What your tip line length should be, your uni knot should be outside of your spool, and however long of a leader you can get and still cast without throwing your minnow off, that should be your leader length. Now, I actually measured that, and it's a lot longer than what you think. It's like right around that 7-8 foot mark if you're using longer rods. But that's the number one thing is learn how to tie whatever a good uniton is, and remember to get whatever it is longer than a 5 foot fluorocarbon leader on your jigs, because it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
No, and I think having the right weight of line too. I know for a lot of years I used braid that was too heavy for walleye fishing. The lighter the braid you can get, people say 20-pound braid is the diameter of 8-pound mono, but it doesn't fish the same. You want to get away with as light of line as you can, because I think when I started more seriously walleye fishing, that was my biggest mistake, is I wasn't on bottom as much as I should be. So anything that lighter line is going to help you get to bottom, and anything you can do to stay on the bottom, super helpful.
Yeah, no doubt. One thing that I noticed on opener when I went out, it was interesting. So we fished for several hours, and you'd see some people hopping around fishing, and you'd see other people that were kind of like set up camp in a certain area, and so you kind of figure if someone's not moving around too much, they're probably creaming them or, seeing some fish, getting some bites. But then, we went to the ramp and talked to some of the people that we saw, that guy over there in the red, whatever boat. And like, they didn't catch anything, and they sat on the spot the whole time. So
group following.
Yeah, for sure. And it's, so it's like, well, geez, if you didn't catch anything, like, you should have moved around a little bit. And not everybody's got all the same fancy equipment, and, some people have to drop an anchor to sit down on a spot or something, but it's worth thinking about what your plan is going to be going in, and say like, oh, I'm only going to spend 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is on a spot. And then just like moving on if you're not catching anything. That would be, and it like, that's like level 1 elementary. But I do think it's something a lot of people need to be reminded of. If you're not catching, like, you got to be moving. And if you don't have really fancy electronics, you kind of have to like have other strategies in mind, and that might just be how long do you wait, or if you do have those electronics, look to see if there's fish there.
We even saw that today to some extent. So we had Brad's Mega Live out there, so we knew we were around fish, but it was funny. Like I talked about earlier in the show, one of the biggest fishes we caught, and when we started to kind of get in the school, it was right underneath the trolling motor.
Yeah.
We saw it on the Mega Live, pitched to it. Well, didn't even have to pitch to it. We dropped on it, hooked it. Then we were able to sharpshoot 2 or 3 fish with the Mega Live.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden we'd be marking all these fish, but they wouldn't be eaten. So then we started to launch long casts away from the boat.
Yep.
And that's how we get them eaten. So even changing what we were doing in the area of fish and not just settling for 4 hours doing what worked for the first 30 minutes.
Well, how about the 1-2 punch approach where you're like, I'm going to pitch out the front, and I'm like, well, in that slow period, I said I'm going to drag.
Yeah.
And then whack, bang, bang. We got a couple fish dragging. Then you lit on fire again, pitching. And we just kind of volleyed all day.
It was like we were running into different schools of fish that were doing different things. And if you get too dead set in what worked on the first school, you might only catch the first school of fish. So it's important to kind of mix it up a little bit, I think.
Well, our catch rates would have been half of what they were if we would have stayed with one technique and not pivoting in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to understand,
what's the limit?
What is the limit of
On
that?
Mille Lacs
the new
this
Mille
year?
I think it's 1 fish a day. You got 21 to 23, and like everyone is coming off the lake with you go a Mille Lacs 23-incher right now.
It's pretty big.
You're talking like you're holding it, going, man. You're thinking you should take a picture of this thing. You're not licking your chops, going, hey, this is gonna look good in the cast iron. I
told Mike, our marketing director, on the way down here, I was like, Mike, if we get a keeper, it's enough for you to feed the family with. So I took a couple home last year, one each day, and it was enough to give a meal to. I was staying with my in-laws, and we fried it up that night, and the other one we fried up the other night, and it fed a few people with a big fish. So
a good way to put Mille Lacs keepers right now is I have a 2.5-year-old and a 4-year-old. And me and my wife, I'll come home and I'll knock the sides off of fish and we'll fry it up. And it'll feed 4 people. Like Joel's got, you always had a side, you always do whatever, but one fish feeds 2 kids and 2 adults. And my wife and I are just always enamored at that. It's just really kind of a cool thing. Because you think of so many people are out there, I got to have that 4 fish, 5 fish, 6 fish, whatever it is,
And a lot of people that do fish fries, a lot of guys told me I always should say 1.5 fish per person.
Yeah. For
like a Canadian fish fry, not those big fish.
No, I think that goes out the window when you get over like 15 inches.
That goes out the window. So you're totally right. That you can have a blast catching a ton of fish out there and still take a good meal home.
That's a fantastic. The thing is, in the state, they've changed some of the limits now. Red Lake went to 5. So it was hovering at 4, and sometimes it's less, but now it's 5 because there's a huge year class of that, 15-inch kind of fish, and anything over 20 there is just really good size. And Winnie is a 6 limit, but a lot of fish in that 13 to 14 and a half, maybe more of them are right at 14, and they'll probably need to live a little bit longer out there. But there sure is a lot of boats around there. But there are some 15s and 16s, but it seems like some of the limits, there's a lot of different limits. So definitely download the DNR PFD because they have all the pages there on your phone, because you want to make sure you're on the right side of the law. And when you measure a fish, it's mouth closed, tail pinched, and stretch it, because if you try to stretch it because you want to keep it, they're not going to stretch it like that. They're going to stretch it like they want to get you. So if the slot is, and even they changed the slot on round, used to be 17 to 26, and now it's 20 to 24. It better be under. You can't touch 20, and it has to be over the line when it's the over slot. So if you're allowed to keep one over, if it touches legally, you can't keep it. It has to be over that black line.
That's a great point, bro. That's a great point. You have to read when it says you have to read 20 and under, 20 and over, you have to read that, or 23 and below is good. You know, you have to really read what it says. You can't just go, oh, it's 21 to 23, right? Because sometimes touching 21 is no good.
Yeah.
You know?
And honestly, I like to buffer myself an eighth of an inch because fish are known to shrink and
stressed out in the live
expand in the live well, depending on what the temperatures are.
Or shrink.
Yeah, so they can change in the live well. So I don't like to keep, on those regulation lakes, don't keep anything within an eighth of an inch if you're not confident, because it could have been that length when it went in the box, but it might not be when the warden pulls it out and measures it.
So with technology advancing as fast as it is, and knowing that you guys are also humminbird guys, how do you take your electronics from just showing up at the lake to producing a fish? Just a quick scenario from both of you.
Want me to start?
Sure.
I'll start. All right. So how I take a blip recently, just because it's time of year, right? Like we're doing a lot of point and shooting. We're doing a lot of verifying if there's fish there. So I verify fish. Then I throw at the fish. Right now it's a jig and minnow. That's my number one choice, right? If that doesn't work, then I start down the progression. Do I need to throw a puppet minnow on there? Do I need to bulk up my jig presentation? I know that these fish are going to eat jigs this time of year because they have for my guide career. But what do they want on that jig? Do they want plastics? Do they want hair? Do they want minnows? What do they want? And I start with 3 or 4 choices and I work from there. But I stay, once I verify that they're walleyes, I stay on that school to figure it out so I can keep on transposing it.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And Nick, you fish a lot of different areas. So Brad's going where he fishes all the time. How do you break down a lake you've never fished before using your humminbird?
So I would say, like, for sure, side imaging is the secret weapon. And it's super deadly. Like if you just have 2D sonar and you go from 2D to 2D and side imaging, I mean, that is just like night and day. The amount of fish you can see and just kind of zip through the area and see if there's fish or see if there's rock or see if there's bottom transitions. You can do a lot with that. And then once you're in the spot, I mean, you can use side imaging to see fish and cast directly at marks you're seeing on there. But like, in addition to that, like if you have live sonar and so you can maybe find fish with side imaging and then try and make more precise casts with basically your forward facing sonar, Mega Live and all that. Like, so you can cast directly at fish, or you can cast at clumps of weeds. You can cast at boulders. And sometimes you'll find like, a fish will come up from behind the boulder that you didn't know was there, but just making a cast at that boulder. And I did see a question pop up here too. I think it was possibly from James, I think was the name. But regardless, the question was, how close can you get before you spook them with forward-facing sonar? And
0.
Well, the question is, the answer is it depends, because sometimes it's 0 and it's like, oh, they're right there. And Sam, that happened to Sam today, where it was like
we ran it over.
And but I would also say I've been out, in like the middle of June, after the fish have been beaten up a little bit.
Yeah.
And it was like on a day where it was sunny, clear water conditions. And you could make a million casts at fish that were 40 feet, 30 feet away from you.
Yeah,
but none of the fish within that range bit.
Yeah.
They had to be 50 or 60 feet or beyond away from the boat. Those are the only fish that would bite. Yeah. And you could make it's not like you were scared. They weren't like, fish aren't usually like running away from you, when you're kind of just sort of driving around with your trolling motor, but they might not bite if you're too close. So that would be my 2 cents. And it's going to depend on the lake. It's going to depend on the situation. But that's kind of the 2-pronged approach: side imaging. And then if you have forward facing sonar, use that to make more precise casts.
Very interesting. And Sam, you've won tournaments doing it. How are you using it?
I like what Nick said. I find myself, especially this time of year, early in the year, constantly looking at my graph. you can see, side imaging, you can see pods of fish. A lot of the weeds aren't up. A lot of the fish are on sand. Even the largemouth bass are kind of cruising out. So you can see those fish really easily. Also, you can see where there might be some weeds starting to pop up. Again, water temperature is a huge thing I look for. I think anything, I'm constantly scanning my graph every cast. So if I hook a fish, I can kind of see what I was around or maybe what was around me, and I know to look for that for the next fish. And it kind of helps me build that story. So yeah, this first month of the season, I am glued to the graph and what it's telling me.
So are waypoints important anymore other than for that day? Do we need them with Lake Master and the 1 foot contours and moving fish and, chasing fish, not running them over? It just seems it used to, you wanted to run them over in the past history, but now with clear water, you want to avoid them and you don't want to, you want to beam them too much because you're moving them. But what's your thoughts? And just real quickly, because time flies on this thing, what's your thoughts about pointing the beam on them? Like in ice fishing, we turn it on and off sometimes. And then do you use waypoints anymore?
I use waypoints because they're still spotting the spots. Like I've got bobber spots that you can go to. It doesn't matter if it's spring, summer, fall. You can drift a bobber across and you're going to get bit. So yeah, so waypoints are key to that. And I know, bro, I know you got a ton of those too, but like beaming them, not beaming them, to put it in a nutshell, what I see is for the next month, they're probably not going to be beam shy. But as we get into the warmer water, those fish do get beam shy. You can't sit there and gamma ray them, like it's, I mean, it's not a gamma ray, but you know what I'm saying.
If you get 40 boats zapping them, they feel like they're being abducted.
Yeah, they start seeing black helicopters and stuff. It's great.
Yeah, that's the real thing, and so I wanted to make sure that people know where to find you. So, Brad, could you throw it where should they can look you up or follow you?
It's Facebook, Hawthorne's Guide Service. I'm still personable, guys. So if you want to give me a call at 651-271-8600, give me a call. Let's talk. Let's text. Let's figure it out.
And Nick, how can they find you?
I would just keep it simple. I would say if you want to go on YouTube and type Nick Linder, you'll find some videos you can watch if that's what you want to do. So
fantastic. I appreciate it. It was really a great show. And I want to thank everybody for being on. Brad Hawthorne, Mille Lacs legend, but has fished everywhere. Nick Linder, who is the face of everything that's coming out now. And Sam, my co-host, who keeps things running smoothly. And, of course, my lovely wife, Heather Brosdahl, who's my creative marketing. And she also likes all kinds of different music, so she's got that going on. But
rock on.
Yeah, she's a rocker. And I like whatever's on. But you can follow everybody's adventures. And do we have a winner, Sam? Did Brooke get a winner?
We do. Brooke just sent it in. It's going to be Jeff Crake. So congratulations,
all right,
Jeff.
Congratulations to Jeff Crake.
Yep.
All right, Jeff Crake, congratulations. Way to go. And then also, I want to tell you, everybody, opener was fantastic here. Everywhere you could ever want to go is on fire since I've never seen it like this good. It's going to be fantastic. And I want to thank Brooke for helping us put this on. Chesterburg Toyota, stop in, say hi, have some coffee. They're going to go through coffee because of me, but definitely tell them Bro sent you and check out their vehicles. And if you get a chance, go to Bemidji Sports Center. Let's go play in the mud. You ain't going to get stuck with these machines. The tires are bigger than what's on my truck, Bemidji Sports Center. And visit Bemidji. If you want to go there, you got to stop at Visit Bemidji and check it out. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. And coming up in the fall, we're going to be talking about ice fishing. And it's kind of the pre-event. And we appreciate everything everybody's done. And so we'll see you in the fall. But before we go, what's next for Sam and Brad and Nick? And give it like just 20 seconds. Where are you fishing? What are you going to do next?
I'm running down side imaging for about a quarter mile tomorrow, dropping waypoints on the biggest schools and coming back with Mega Live and throwing jigs at them.
Sounds good. Nick?
I'm going to be following along. I'm going to be on Mille Lacs tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to be
It's
with you on
fail.
Wednesday, so I'm going to be jumping around.
And I'm going to be up in the front of the boat, and we're asking Brad where to cast. So,
And I'm going to be guiding tomorrow, and I'm going to have Band-Aids on my fingers because we're catching so many fish right now. We're just hammering them. It's a jig bite, and it doesn't get any better than this. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you in the fall. Over and out.
Thanks, everyone.
There we go. All right. Oh, yeah, look at him. You got to fight him on the surface.
What I like to do is take an RC jig from Northland Fishing Tackle.
Get the shiner after the fish attacked it. Hook him weedless style.
This puppy wanted a jigging size sucker minnow. Yeah, sucker minnow.